whatever stupid reason, like it mutes it.
It mutes it. So we were muted. Okay.
So you probably didn't hear, did you hear like nothing for about like 10, 15 seconds and then it started sounding stupid? Yeah, right. Exactly.
Start over.
Yeah,
okay, so I don't know what you heard, but we're keeping with the tradition, ritual, whatever we decided from Finding Paradise of cracking a cold one. And I did not go along with picking out the beverages this time. I just sent Tyler out. And so this is...
So if they're shitty, it's my fault.
It will be your fault. But this is Montgomery Brewing. So this is like Minnesota Montgomery, right?
Yeah. So Montgomery, there's a brewery. This is about 10 minutes from here where this is made.
Well, the next town's over.
Yeah. I had one of their beers last week and it was really good. And they had 2 sours. They didn't have this one when I was there. I had the other.
In case someone wants to see this.
Yeah. Oh my Dragon Star Galactica.
I always struggle with this part, thinking like you have to think reverse, backwards.
You should try them
on the camera. Yeah.
Made with dragon fruit and mango.
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 I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. Also, I'm not sure how big of a mess this is going to make, but because yours makes it.
Oh, yeah.
Mine
you got
doesn't.
A new Belgium surly something.
So I don't really like a barley wine, really, but figured why not? Because I like New Belgium and I like Surly. And it's a collaboration with them. So Dark Forest, barley wine sour aged in bourbon barrels with spruce tips.
Ooh.
Not the whole spruce, just the tips.
Feel free to make dirty jokes if you want.
Okay.
And I figured
there's been a few already. I'm like trying to hold myself back a little bit.
I figured I have a New Belgium glass here anyway. So well, it seemed like the right thing to do. So I'm not sure if this is going to blow just like on its own or if I got to.
I'm just going to go this way. Oh my gosh.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's not. It's safe.
I don't know if I trust it till it's like fully open.
Yeah, but.
Okay.
Phew.
Okay, now I'll crack the can. If I can get my nail under here. Oh my goodness.
Every time.
No, it's not every time.
Oh shit, I had to crack it last time too.
You are full of it. Oh, I got it half.
Fuck.
There we go.
See?
Okay, well.
There you go. All set.
Try it.
So, yeah, I don't get I have to.
I don't know. It's pretty beery.
Yeah.
But also very sour.
Try this one.
It'll grow on me.
Okay.
Okay, Tyler's got his.
So, like I said, I don't really like.
You're gonna have the foam all over your mustache.
Yeah. Too much head. Never mind.
It's what?
To say it's the only time in life I've ever said that, but
that's the only time in life you are. Okay.
Actually, that's not.
Trade.
Yeah.
We'll get down to business here pretty soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what we do.
I
the
love
first 5-10 minutes is usually just kind of a train wreck. Yeah, see, she doesn't like it.
That's okay.
It's really difficult to find one I actually like.
Well,
it's really very difficult. Okay.
And also, this is 12%. So here we go.
All right. So we haven't even introduced you yet. So
I know.
So this is Cheryl.
Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
I've known Cheryl for a while, just online through support groups. Probably about a year and a half, 2 years, year and a half, couple years.
Yeah, it's been quite a while.
Yeah. So
I met you through Tyler.
Yeah.
Through the online meetup.
Yep. It was our upstate New York, XJW upstate New York. Mm-hmm. And Tyler was commuting to work. And I just remember him being the guy that was always driving. And he'd be on his commute listening. And we're like, where's that guy that's always driving? Is he? Oh, yeah. And then we all just became good friends. And now you guys you're not even from upstate New York, but you're a part of our group. And we look forward to chatting with you every month. It's a great support group and wonderful group of friends.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been
I'm
great.
usually the quiet one, or I'm just kind of sneaking in and listening.
Yeah.
They'll usually have other stuff going on. So I feel like people in that group probably don't know me very well, but they know Tyler for sure.
Well, you're typically at the end of Tuesday, you're probably coming off of a shift. So you're tired already. You're done with work. So, but no, it's been great group. I appreciate you guys a lot. It's been wonderful. So thank you.
I appreciate that you've been there for Tyler throughout all of this and long before he reconnected with me. So good job.
It's great. We started it originally as a local upstate New York group in our specifically to where we are in central New York. And then when COVID hit, we went online, and now it's expanded where we have a lot of people from other states that we support. And
even another country.
Yes, but our farthest away is New Zealand, and it's just been great. And we realized that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be just upstate New York. It's, whoever we can help. We all share that same common. One thing I do notice in our group that is a very common thread is most of the XJWs in our group are all raised in it. And leave. And that is something that is a very unique situation, which kind of gets into my story in that, yes, I was another one who was generally raised in it. So,
yeah.
Well, we've I'm
trying to think how to
Minnesota has kind of invaded the,
yes,
New York.
You guys have.
There's 5 or 6 now, I think, from our area in Minnesota that are now part of the New York XJW group.
Yeah.
So, no, a diverse group.
My friend Karina and I, when we talked about the idea of starting this group, we were shocked that there really was no one in our area because of the world headquarters being in Wallkill and now in where's the new one now, near Newburgh or whatever.
Warwick.
Yeah. How is there not an XJW group in this area, especially, and there really wasn't.
It is pretty saturated there.
Yeah. So there was definitely a need. So we decided to give it a try, and here we are. We have 150 members now in the group, and it's been a success.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I want to make sure you're not echoing still. Are you still echoing?
Yeah, I tried to turn it down a little bit.
Okay. Clearly we are, for the audio listeners, like I say, I guess that's just my job to think about that part of it, is that Cheryl's on the East Coast. We are doing this through, it's not really a Zoom call. It's something StreamYard. Yep. So we might have echoes, even though our audio tends to be kind of even when we're all sitting in the same place. So there may be, it seems like your internet's pretty good though. So that's a plus.
All good.
But if there's some kind of technical issue, we're not in the same room. No. We are doing this at a different time zone from each other.
Yeah.
It's not our first rodeo with technical difficulties and shit. So if it happens,
I'd say it happens every episode. Yeah. There's some kind of technical difficulty, but we do our best.
So far, so good.
So it seems, I guess, to get going on your story, it seems you covered a little bit of some of those questions I first started out with, or I guess sent to you. So what is your current Jehovah's Witness status or affiliation? I guess you kind of touched on it, but maybe a little
Yes, I am currently disfellowshipped. I do identify, I guess, as an apostate. Their JW definition is different than what our definition is, but I have absolutely no desire to ever go back to the religion. I've never been happier in my life. I was in my mother joined. Well, I'll go back, I guess. My mother joined when I was 7 years old. So I had a mother in the religion, and my father never joined. And I spent my entire childhood praying that my father would become a witness. And now I've never been so thankful that he didn't become a witness. So it was, my mother was very strict, and it was Halloween night. Ironically, we were knocking on doors. And we knocked on a Jehovah's Witness door who was a friend of my mother's. And she said, we don't do Halloween. And my mother said, so long story made short, my mother started studying. And the following year, we weren't celebrating Halloween anymore. And I always think back to that day, that what if they weren't home? What if that was a meeting night? And my mother, you know what I mean? Everything changes,
butterfly effect.
And it's just funny. So, that's how my mother got affiliated. She started studying. She became a witness, got baptized. I was 7 years old at the time. And then I have a little sister who 3 years younger than me. So I got baptized at 15 because I'm an extrovert. I'm, social. You know how it is. It's very heavily praised. So I was like, I'll get baptized. Sure. I love God. And and I was really in it, I guess, for a while where I believed it. And I always hoped my father would join, and my sister never got baptized. So I ended up marrying another witness, and he was not really into the religion. It's an odd situation. I don't want to say a lot about his story or his family, but he never really became an elder or ministerial servant. He was a very avid meeting attender, very devoted, but didn't reach out for privileges. So we ended up having 3 kids. We were married 27 years and generally had a great marriage for about 15 to 20 years. And then he started really getting into the religion big time. And I started pulling away, where I started having doubts. And of course, you don't talk about it. They sit there in your mind. And for me, I don't think I'll ever forget. It was in 2005 when that Overlapping Generation Watchtower came out. I remember sitting there. Of course, I never studied the Watchtower ahead of time. So I got there, and you're reading it. And I remember looking around like, is everybody buying this? Because like they just added 100 years. And then I remember after the meeting talking to a friend and saying, what the hell? And she goes, well, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, but I guess. And I remember this older sister coming up to me, comes up to me and goes, the society never said Armageddon was coming in 1975. And I go, what? So I didn't know anything about 1975 because my mother came in 1977.
Oh, okay.
Already swept under the rug. So that planted, I'm like, what is she talking about? I've been a witness for how many years and I've never heard this 1975 thing. So, you start getting the little things where the doubts are happening. So then fast forward, our 3 kids are growing up, and my oldest daughter, a lot of issues emotionally. She ended up in Four Winds, which is a mental hospital for depression and a suicide attempt. And we went through this whole counseling thing and all that. And she ended up later on coming out as gay. And it all came to a point where I was still, I guess, what you call PMO, physically in, mentally out, but I never did the research. I didn't start, it just kept festering. I'm like, something's wrong, but, I don't know. You shrug your shoulders. And you know how it is, Amanda, when you're a mom and you're busy with kids and this and that, you just kind of take day by day, and you're a mom and you're doing your thing and you go to work and take care of your kids, and you just don't delve into it so my daughter came out as gay. And I knew at that point I was going to have to make a choice, because I was either going to have to start shunning my gay daughter and never talk to her ever again to save the marriage, and be in it, or the marriage was going to fall apart and I was going to choose. And you understand, if I lose the marriage, I'm going to be disfellowshipped and lose my mom because she's a witness. So do I choose between my husband and my mom and all of my friends I grew up with, like literally every single person I ever knew, or my child? And I think the answer was obvious. I chose my child. Mm-hmm. So now to this day, my daughter and her partner live downstairs. They have an apartment downstairs. My second daughter left all on her own. And my son is currently not baptized, and he's 16. And again, I'm leaving that choice up to him. Whatever he chooses, I support him. But the whole, it's just being raised in that religion is a very unique situation. And that's why getting together with other XGWs really helps one another, because we all have the same story.
Mm-hmm.
So I did end up leaving. I am disfellowshipped after I was, I guess, around that same time. When it all came to a head and I had to make a choice, I don't know what made me one day pick up my phone and you start that Google search. And I don't even remember what I typed in, but the first video that came up was XJW 5th. And I watched his video, and that began the rabbit hole of, I just started watching stuff. And then I found JW Facts, and I literally have a PhD, so to speak, XJW content. Like I started studying. I think I started with 1975, and I was floored. And then I remember finding the birthdays, and I studied the earthquakes, like how many earthquakes. And then I studied the overlapping generation came up, and then I went down all the list, and I became absolutely obsessed with researching and went very quickly from Pimo to I can't do this another day of my life. And I ended up leaving the marriage, which was divorce is so traumatizing. It's horrible, but it was the right choice. And choosing my child, and it was a rocky road, which I'll tell you guys about. Now having a relationship with a physically in, mentally in ex-spouse and a so-called apostate, it can be a rocky road.
Mm-hmm. My question is, how old were you when you got married? And then how old were you when you got divorced, or how old were your kids when you started that process?
I was married at the very young age of 20. Couldn't drink at my own wedding, which is odd. We started dating when we were 18 and didn't get married till 20. So that's a super long engagement for a witness, because I was actually in a community college at the time. And thankfully, that's the one thing that I'm so thankful for to my father not being a witness is I got to get my 2-year degree right out of high school. So I was in college. So thankfully I got that right away, which kids in the 90s did not get that. It didn't happen. So we were married 27 years. And when I left the religion, I was about 46, which it disappoints me that I waited so long. But my oldest daughter, I have 3 kids. My oldest was 19. My middle daughter was about 17. And then my son was 12. Because I remember in our divorce papers, my oldest daughter was set. My middle daughter was just shy of 18. So I put in the papers, I'm not going to force you to visitation. I treated her as an adult. And I said, I want to see you as much as possible. But I didn't force anything on her because she was pioneering at the time, fully in pioneering with her dad. And it was rough. And then my son, I do have visitation right now. And we'll get into that, how that all went down. But yeah, did I answer your question? Yeah. So I was in for a very long time.
Yeah, sounds like it. Also, I'm wondering, it sounds like your parents stayed married. So you had they did not. Okay. So
that's a whole long story, but it will come back around. So my mom did end up leaving my dad after 25 years of marriage. And then she was disfellowshipped for a while. And interestingly, please note that I never shunned her. Okay. I never did. I supported her. I had just had my daughter, and she did go back. It took her over 2 years to go back to the religion, but she did get reinstated. But I never shunned her the whole time she was disfellowshipped, and she shuns me now. So interestingly. Nice. Yeah. So, they are not together anymore. And ultimately, I don't want to tell their whole story, but it had to do with the religion. That's a divide. It's very, very difficult to be in a marriage with someone who's in the religion and one who isn't. So,
yeah, you said that it kind of it surrounds everything that they do. And
it does,
even recently talking with, court officials and things, like in my own situation, I've told them, like, there's no way that I can adequately describe how far it reaches into every single aspect of their lives. Like, there is nothing that it doesn't affect, whether it's the marriage, the parenting, the family relationships with, our blood relatives, to the congregation, to everything. Like, there's no way to adequately describe how deeply that is all interconnected.
Right. And even when my ex-husband and I separated, We did try to date one another and try to make it work. And we discussed over and over and over, can we make the marriage work with you being in and me being out? And it was constantly like he wanted me to go back. That was the only answer. And I couldn't stress that I'm never going back. And this isn't because of my pride. This isn't because I'm, whatever the reasons are, I don't believe it anymore. I did my research. I'm 1,000% sure that I don't want to be a part of this, and how all that goes. And then can we continue a marriage? And there are some people that make a marriage work, and I applaud them. I have such respect for people that can do that. But just the way my ex was, I just knew that was never going to work. I said to him, how are we going to have a marriage? And on the weekends, like everybody we know is a witness, his family, my family, I have my dad and my sister, which aren't, but like, I can't go with you to any of your events, any gatherings, any family, like literally we will have separate lives, and you aren't going to want to hang out with my worldly friends and my XJW friend. It's never going to work. This is not a marriage anymore. And you can only do so much with it. But then once you go back down the path of divorce, you don't really know someone until you divorce them. Mm-hmm. Everything changes. And the person you thought wouldn't be money hungry and wouldn't be evil and mean to you, and of course, there's no good way to leave a JW. There's only one way to leave a JW marriage, and you're always the evil one. And once you're an ex-JW apostate or whatever they call it, you're wicked. He actually told me that. That was a quote he said to me one day. He goes, you're actually one of the wicked ones that the Bible talks about. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to continue a marriage with a person that thinks I'm wicked just because I don't want to be a part of this religion. And I know I respect that he's fully in it. And from his point of view, yeah, I guess I am wicked. And a lot of therapy helped me realize that, maybe I am wicked. And okay, so what? Mm-hmm. Accepting labels, and things like that. But yeah, it's a rough road.
Yeah, that sounds very familiar. Again, I had a lot of the same conversations with my ex, like as I was leaving, like, look, I'm leaving a religion. Like, I'm not leaving my family. I'm not leaving you. I'm not mm-hmm. leaving my kids. I love you. I love my kids. And that's what I want to do. I want to continue. So what do we got to do to make that work? And like you said, there was nothing that was ever going to satisfy that. It was always, well, come back. And again, it came down to me, an ultimatum of talk to the elders or get out. like those are some of the things that we deal with. So yeah, like you said, mm-hmm. kudos to people that are able to actually figure it out. And I think honestly, in those situations, I think that might be a spouse who is still in, but doesn't, because otherwise, I mean, you're just programmed to hate that other person. So I don't know.
I mean, I do know of couples, I won't mention their names, but I do know of couples who one is out and his wife is a pioneer and they make it work. And I have the utmost respect for that relationship. And I mean, I just applaud that. That is so amazing. I just knew that wasn't going to happen for us. And I tried everything to wake him up. I mean, so this comes to the question, which I assume you're going to ask is, how do you wake up the other person? And the answer is you can't. You just can't. I mean, I showed him everything from the Australia Royal Commission to JW Facts to 1975 to 607 isn't when, this and that. And I went to Beth Serum. And can you believe that? He willed it to them that Moses was, it was like talking to a wall. And then I would show him Newsweek articles, like legit articles. And I would try everything. So like, let's not use apostate stuff. Let's use he wouldn't even read an article, anything that was bad about the religion. He would not. It was an absolute brick wall. And I realized I am never. And the one conversation I had, this was the pivotal day in my life. We had a phone conversation and I said to him, so if we can make this marriage work or whatever, I said, let's hypothetically say for a minute, I said, you and I, Armageddon didn't come yet. Okay. You and I are 85 years old and we're sitting on our porch in our rocking chairs and we're reflecting on our lives as a married couple. And I have a lifetime of memories with our children and my daughter and her partner and everything. And you have a lifetime of shunning, no memories with your kids because you shun them. Are you going to be able to look back on your life and be okay with that? And he said, yes, because I know I'm doing the right thing in God's eyes. And I said to him, we can't be married anymore. I said, I'm so sorry. And I went through I'll always care about you. You're the father of my children. I'll always love you. I do care, but I just knew we couldn't be married anymore. And for a religion to make you have to choose between your spouse and your children. And I know people say to me, oh, it's so wonderful what you did. I go, that's what every mother would do. That's not anything miraculous. This is biology. You're supposed to be there for your kids. And it's been 3 years now. He does not, mind you, my 2 children that were baptized, the 2 older ones, are not disfellowshipped. He still shuns them because he said they should be disfellowshipped. So it's been 3 years. He hasn't talked to my oldest daughter and my middle daughter. It's been almost probably 2 years now. He hasn't talked to her and very minimal texting, nothing. And I, of course, being the female, emotionally feel, how do you go to bed at night? How do you sleep at night? Not talking to children. Don't you wonder where they are, what they're doing, what they're, everything in their lives. But that was a deciding, though I knew the marriage was over at that point when he told me that he could actually shun them for their whole lives. And then the other thing, as far as our relationship, him and I, he actually told me that he was in misery. That was the word he used, being in a relationship with me, but he was loyal. So he was going to stay with me in misery forever because that's what God wanted. And I said, I don't want to be with someone who doesn't want to be with me. So we're just going to live miserably ever after in our little separate lives. And I said, somebody's got to cut the cord here. So I
remember that.
I took the hit and I said, well, and it takes a lot of therapy to get over the loss of your good reputation, the loss of your friends and all of that. And it hurts. It's very painful to go through, but in the end, I made the right choice. And, when you're put between a rock and a hard place, you make that choice.
Yeah. Well, good job in choosing the correct choice, even though I would assume it led to a whole domino effect of things that were very difficult to deal with. Yes, it did. Mm-hmm.
So then begins the legal separation and the divorce and what are you going to do? And, and it becomes me against him, that he's telling the kids that I abandoned them. I didn't leave them. I left just you. I'm still here for my kids. And I fought for these kids tooth and nail all the way through. So we ended up going to a mediator, which if anyone is going to be going through this, I highly recommend getting a mediator because it keeps you out of court. And you can have a mediator. For those who don't know, it's a person who comes in and basically the three of you, your soon to be ex and the mediator, and they just make a list of everything between assets, debts, your kids, visitation, everything. And you see if you can come to an agreement on your own without involving the court, because to get, it was about a $5,000 retainer, and it was going to cost me about $10,000 to go to court to fight. So it saves you a ton of money, but sometimes you end up agreeing to things that you don't necessarily want to agree with, but you do to stay out of court. And I really was what is best for the kids. So we ended up coming up with an agreement, and it went back and forth, and the threats, constant threats of we're going to court. Oh, this again. I was like, come on, calm down. I don't want to go to court and have a judge decide for me what to do with our children. So we would back away. And this went on for over a year, I would say, of text arguing and back and forth and with him stalking me and him following me around and trying to find me doing wrong things. And, I put cameras on my house because he was coming by at 2 a.m. and to see if my daughter was actually here. Did she live here? And so anyways, to make a long story short, the legal separation, we ended up, so on paper, our income was about the same, but I'm self-employed. So, when you're self-employed, it's all different. It's a mess trying to figure out what you actually make. Well, because he had, my oldest daughter lived on her own, middle daughter living with him, and my son, I actually gave him primary, where he had 51% custody and I had 49% because he had the house, which I'm now in now. So the agreement was he was primary. We had 50-50 custody, and I ended up paying him child support. And it was absolutely ridiculous. He has a really good job working for the state. I have a really good job, and I ended up paying him child support, and we worked on a schedule with 50-50 with my son. And I ended up signing the paper because I looked at it that if it was going to cost me $10,000 to go to court, I'd rather pay child support that maybe my kid was going to get. And I didn't want to leave him high and dry anyway. We were trying to have an amicable divorce and relationship. So I ended up paying him quite a bit a month for a long time, until like a year later, my middle daughter ended up on her own wanting to leave the religion. And I want to say for the record, I never, how did I wake my daughter up? I didn't. She did it on her own. She figured it out, and I treated her as an adult, and I respected her. And my motto was always, Chloe, if you want to be a pioneer and you need a ride to the Kingdom Hall, I will drop you off. I support you if that's what makes you happy. But if you don't, I'll call the cops for you when they come looking for you. I never influenced her. I never, sent her videos and watched it. I didn't do anything. I just strictly loved her. And eventually she just figured it out on her own. So then it came to the house. He got my house in the divorce, and we worked it out, the whole thing. I had to pay him off, whatever. Very, very complicated because both of our names were on it, and I had to get my name off the mortgage. And that was a whole big, very, very complicated. So in the end, in the divorce, he got the house. And then after the divorce, he started dating immediately. And I assumed she didn't want to live in the house or whatever. And he called me and asked me if I wanted the house one day, which essentially came with my middle daughter because she wanted to live in the house. So I thought, do I want the house? Do I want the responsibility? All that? I don't really know. But I felt like I was buying my child because I thought if she starts living with me, maybe she'll figure it out on her own. And essentially that's what ended up happening. So I rebought the house. It came with my middle daughter. And she was going to meetings. And when she would leave for the meeting, I'd say, have a great meeting. Oh, how was it? Oh, I supported. I didn't say a word. And then it wasn't very long. Couple weeks later, she woke up one morning and she was like, I don't think I want to go to the meeting today on Sunday morning. And I go, okay, do you want to go get breakfast? Yeah. Okay. And she never went again. I don't know. I didn't. I think that when you try to force them to wake up, they don't. So at that point, Chloe is now living with me. Why am I paying him child support for a kid that lives with me and we share 50-50 on the other? Well, then COVID happened. I lost one of my jobs. I couldn't afford to pay him child support. I lost my job to COVID. Everything was shut down. The kid is now living with me. So I went to court. That time we actually did go to court. I went to court, and this judge had to be like, how did this woman end up paying this guy child support? Like he had to, they never bring it up that, so it was courts just reopened. I went in and we showed our income. I said that she had lived with us. That's when he was stalking me in the middle of the night. I have him on camera. He has a Life 360 on my son's iPad to know where he's going all the time, which is fine. You want to know where your kid is, but he stupidly doesn't realize that it also tells me everywhere he goes. So I got screenshots of every single time he drove by my house in the middle of the night. I had proof of everything. Every single time he went by this house, I had a screenshot. I had it on my cameras. I had everything. And I didn't want to be a jerk and have to go to court, but I had all this evidence. And anyway, I went to court ready to fight a battle. He was going to go to trial, and he was going to put Chloe on the stand and ask her if she lived here. Because the thing is, she was what, 18 at the time? Yeah, she 18, 19-year-old young girl in upstate New York in the summer. Of course, she's never home. She was at her boyfriend. She was at her friend. She was at the lake. She was, having a good time. She was a kid. So yeah, sometimes she didn't sleep here because she was here, there, she was 18, but she still lived here. It was her address. So anyway, the judge saw through that, and he ended up, I probably could have gotten child support from him because we shared our son. I didn't want any of that. I just wanted it a wash. So we went in, and the judge ruled that it was a wash. I did not have to pay him child support anymore. And I remember him turning to me and said, "Does that help you out, Miss Murphy?" And I was like, "Yes, it does. Thank you very much." So we left, and I couldn't believe it. I'm free. I don't have to pay him child support anymore. But the thing is about the whole child support thing, I still pay for, how much kids cost. I pay for all three of my kids just because they cost you a lot of money. So yeah, you're still buying for your kids. And I just didn't want to have to be paying him when he has a really good job, and he's now remarried and she has a job. So, and she has a ex-spouse that most likely, I assume, pays her child support. So that was really, really rough to go through, and, the whole court thing. But sometimes the courts, depends on the judge you get, can really help you out. And then other times it doesn't go your way.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I can understand that. So in your communication with him, how have you handled that? Like, what form do you use? I'm trying to think of my question. Sorry, because this one I did not have written down. I just
I want to
go ahead.
A quick one. I just want to interject quick. Sure. One quick question. So, two oldest daughters live in Chloe. They're with you. Mm-hmm. Your son, minor, not going to use his name. He's 15?
16 now. 16.
Okay. And I know, what is the living arrangement there? Is he primarily, because I think it's some back and forth, but
yeah, it's technically 50-50. And I think on paper, he still is primary, but technically he's here more because I live in the school district. So he has to have his address here to go to the school, because this is a school that if you don't live in the district, you have to pay tuition. And he's doing wonderful in school and everything. And so technically his address has to be here because of that. But it is pretty 50-50. And as far as communication, we used to text argue all the time. And then once he got married, I do respect the fact that he is remarried, and it is a JW. She's very in. And, so it went from argue to literally business. So our text messages now are very just business, pick up, drop off, this and that. We do not argue anymore. And it's better that way, because I do wish him happiness. I hope him and his JW wife are very happy in the JW world. And, that's what he wanted, and that's okay. But as far as the kids go, did I answer your question? What you said about that? I think so.
Probably.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I'm not very good at on the fly stuff, but I try. Yeah, I think that probably answered. Business, text. So, I'm in a different kind of situation. So, and it's been longer, and my kids were younger and nicer and all that. So it's a little bit different situation. But, it sounds like a lot of it became better once he got remarried, and it seems like maybe that new wife respects your role. Is that a good understanding of that?
Yeah, she, ironically, she was an acquaintance of mine. So not like best friends or anything. She's a very nice person. She's very in it. If she watches this video, I doubt it, but I have the utmost respect for how kind she is to my son. She's very, very nice to him. And, it works, because I would do the same thing too. If I had someone else's child or whatever. No, she's very, very nice to him, and she tries very hard to have a relationship with my son, but he's not he's not very open to that, but that's another story. But yeah, he's a good boy, and she's very kind to him. And she does have my text that, one day she texted me and said it's good for us to have each other's numbers. And I said, oh, that is super great, and she'll drop my son off to school on their days, and I will. So yeah, and she's very kind. So she doesn't like if she comes in the driveway and she will say hello to my kids, and she's very, very nice, but very business, and that's totally fine. I have no problem with that.
So basically, she's not tried to take over your position as mother to your children.
No, and that is not even. This is my son. Yeah, I don't want to use his name.
Yeah, please don't. We'll have to beep it anyway. If you mess up,
yeah, it's okay. He's a minor, and I don't want to, But
which
my
is tough because I love his name. He's got a great name. So
he does. Well, and that's what I was going to say. He has a specific nickname that I personally have given him. I won't say it, but I have a cute little nickname I give him, and it's also like one of his screen names online. Well, a story he told me, and I feel really bad because she tried, the new wife tried to address him by that name, and he got very upset that why would she call me that, and I think I said to him, look, she's just being kind. She's trying to be your friend. Well, that's the name you call me, blah, blah, blah. And I think he drew that boundary that, so she does try very hard, and I'm very, very thankful that, she's kind to my son and, tries. That's the way it should be, and, in a relationship like that, I don't think they feel the same way about me, but that's okay. That's okay, and I know, like, her point of view, I know she's been told all kinds of horrible stories about me and how wicked I am and all the stuff I've done. So, that it is what it is. They're married now. That is a marriage, and, they can do their thing. But we do have to co-parent. So, but I do think because she also has children that are minors, she has to co-parent with her ex too. So it kind of, there's a whole bunch, but it does seem to work now. We try to be respectful of one another, and our schedule, we're pretty good about the schedule and how it works, drop up and pick up. I'm very, very fortunate that his father only lives about 5-10 minutes away. So it's very convenient. And I'm also very respectful because this is not my choice. I always make sure that is available on meeting days. So like their meetings are Sunday morning and Tuesday nights, and they do their family study, I believe, Mondays. So he has Sunday to Wednesday. Oh my God, you have to beep that out.
I'm just sitting here going like, I'll beep it. Don't worry about it.
Sorry. My son does attend Zoom meetings online. And I'm always very respectful that, again, that is my son's choice. If he wants to log on the meeting and he wants to be a witness, I have no problem with that. So I never interfere. I would never do that. Same thing. I always look at it the same way. Like, let's say my son wanted to do karate lessons or dance lessons or something. I'm not going to stop him from doing that too. It's what he wants to do when he's with his dad. So whether or not he likes it, that's a different story, but I never interfere with it. And if there's an assembly or something and they have to be available, I do switch it up because I do appreciate it when he switches the schedule for me when I have something going on or whatever. And we're pretty good about switching times and things like that. But generally we stick to a pretty strict schedule, and I try to spend as much time as I possibly can with my child because I know my days are numbered and he's my baby. So, this is the last one.
Yeah. Do you feel like your ex-husband and the new spouse ever talk badly about you to your son? Or do they try to just keep their feelings about you away from him?
Yes. I don't want to speak about his spouse because I don't know. She's a very kind, wonderful person. She was a friend of mine. I don't think she does, but him, yes. I have found evidence when speaking to my son of things that his father has told me, and certain things we've said, and I don't know. He'll say little things to me, and I'm just like, I can't believe this father. I know he's feeding him things about me. And I always speak very kind about his dad. And I'll say, I'm really sorry it didn't work out between me and your dad, but I still love you. And I know your dad loves you. And I always say nice things about his dad. I try really hard to not say bad things. And my son will tell me, well, that's not the way he talks about you, Mom. Or why are you so nice? That's not it. And I know a lot of it is the religion, because I don't want to say in a normal divorce, is there such a thing as a normal divorce? But in a normal divorce, when two people get divorced, you get to keep your family. You know what I mean? And you don't get shunned by all your friends. But in a JW divorce, you really are labeled as the bad guy, and you're an apostate, you're wicked, you do how dare you, whatever you're doing in your life. It's just, so I do know, yes, even though in our court papers it does say that you're not allowed to say anything bad that would interfere with the natural love of a parent and child or something like that. That is written, it is in writing. And I do try really hard to not ever do that, because first of all, going back, my parents are divorced, and I know, and I've told my son that. I said, Dad's parents are still together. My parents are not. So I know what you're going through, and I know how hard that can be. So, and I didn't like when my mother would bash my father and say things and and I'd be like, well, that's my dad, So I kind of look at it, because I know what it's like to be a child of divorce, even though I was an adult when it happened. So I try not to do that with him, and I just do the best I can to be a good mom. And I told him recently, I'm not perfect. I never said I was. Nobody is. I'm just doing my best here to raise you to make good choices, and whatever they are, I support you, and I try. I hope his dad would do the same, but coming from the JW point of view, that pretty much the be all only end way is to be a Jehovah's Witness. If he's not, that's unacceptable. If you're not baptized, which so far he is not, and I do feel at 16, if he's not baptized already, he's probably not going to, but he may. I don't know. I have to leave that up to him. But if he doesn't get baptized, then at least he doesn't have to worry about being shunned and, going down.
There's still that loophole.
Yeah, that's that little tiny loophole. But it's a very unique situation. And like anybody I tell my story to outside of JW world, ex-JW world, is absolutely floored, because like you said, they have no idea how much this religion organization permeates every single part of your life, your marriage, your kids, like everything.
Yeah.
And I've talked to my son and said, like, I know it must be hard for you to be in one household where it's super strict, rigid rules, all that. And then here we're pretty happy-go-lucky, not anything goes, but, we just try to, we're more liberal, I guess you would say, and more accepting. And I do feel like I know my son a lot better than my ex does, because I think my son can share things, even just like music he likes, and he can freely show me things that he likes, and I can go, that's cool, that's nice, or nah, it's not really my thing, or whatever. But we can share that, because it's not like, what are the lyrics,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One question. Sorry, go ahead.
Guys, remember in the 70s when you used to get in trouble for when you played a record backwards, what it said?
Yeah.
So,
I heard about that.
It's backward.
Mm-hmm.
I'm dating myself. Sorry.
Hey, records are still cool.
Our record player's sitting right there, so it's like 10 feet away. So,
so my question, or I guess another question I have too, is that has your ex-spouse tried to change custody so that you don't have your child, mainly because you're not a witness and they view you as terrible, and so you are not fit to raise your child?
No, he has not. And I'm sure, I don't want to make up stories, but I'm sure he's considered it. But in a court of law is in New York State, the mother does hold, I was paranoid when I first left that I was going to lose my kids. I was like, I remember calling a lawyer, and I, was, crying, and she said to me, "Do you have a job?" And I said, "Yes." And I told her, she goes, do you have a house? I said, yes. She goes, do you have any DWIs? And I go, no. She goes, you're not going to lose your kids. You're the mother. And I was like, oh. And then she told me that their little shunning policy means nothing. She goes, that power ends at the door of she called it the church. She goes, in a court of law, she goes, you're going to be fine. You're not going to lose your kids. And I was like, oh, so like the mom does hold a lot of weight. And I could be a jerk too. And I could go back and try to get full custody of him and this and that. But I don't want to do that to his father because that's his dad, And I know my son doesn't want that either. My son wants to have both of his parents. And that's the way it should be. We are co-parenting. So do I think he probably has considered it? But I mean, my son is now 16. So we're in New York State. It is actually till 21, not 18. But once my son is 18, really legally, he can get a job, move out, do what he wants. And again, obviously, I hope he stays with me forever. And, I'll keep him. I adore him. But I have to let him make his own choices. So I'm just I guess we're both just riding out the clock at this point because it's one child. He seems very happy, going back and forth. He gets time with both of us. But I'm sure he does wish that I was out of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question that I had that I can't remember now. Like it's just gone. Something related to custody, but it's just gone.
I missed you.
Maybe if they got to choose.
Oh, I can elaborate on that. In New York State at 14, the child is allowed to choose who they want to live with. So in one sense, I do know that. And I'm like, oh, I could go and, hope my son could choose me and I could have him all the time. And And then I think about, but what if he doesn't choose me? His dad. And then I lose. And that's when I'm like, I would never want to do that to his father because I don't want him to do that to me. So my son can choose at this age. And I do believe that my son would want to choose to have both parents and do the 50-50 that we have going on. It seems to be a good schedule. So, I mean, to all the parents out there that are going through this, if you at all can work something out like that, where it's 50-50, and it's really all about what's best for the child. It really is. You have to consider in each child, I guess it would be a different situation too, of what's best for them. But we did it out of court, which I told you I got screwed because I had to pay child support, but it's only money. So I was like, if I have to pay money to see my child, I'll do it, whatever. The most important thing to me was that I had my child and had that time with him, every single minute I could have with him.
Yeah. I guess to go back to some of the questions I had originally sent, we covered a lot of it. So great.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that your parents got divorced. One was in, one was out, but it was as an adult, or you were an adult during that time. I like to get the perspective of the child in those situations. Generally, it's when they're younger, the children are younger, but you're an adult. I'm trying to think how to phrase that question. Is there anything that your parents got right with that, or anything they got wrong you wish they'd done better as far as dealing with you when one is in, one is out?
That's an interesting question. Yes, because when you're a child and your parents get divorced, your parents don't tell you everything, and you don't get all the details and it doesn't make sense and you're dealing with it. And as a child, you think it's your fault and, what could I have done? Da, da, da. And you're a kid though. So, and you're resilient and you get through it. But when it happens as an adult, your parents tell you everything and you kind of know their story, that story, this and that, and the other thing. And it still doesn't make sense. And you still feel like maybe this was my fault. Maybe I should have said something. And you go through the same exact feelings as an adult as you do as that little innocent child. And I guess it's all the same. It's grief, it's the same emotions. but it still doesn't make sense as an adult. And then I personally realized that I now have, because I was already married. And for me at the time, I found out I was pregnant for my oldest. And I thought, oh, this is horrible timing. And then I thought, this is the best timing in the world, because now I have my own family and I can focus on her. So the one thing my parents did right, they did the same thing, a non-contested divorce. There was no fighting. They very amicably were able to split ties. And my sister and I were both adults, and so there was no child custody and all that. So that makes it a lot easier. For a while, I was my dad's support person through it, because my mom was the one that left and took off, and I was here with my dad, who was not the witness. We got a lot closer at that time. And I would say one of the biggest things I can say as the child of a divorce is not bashing the other parent. There's two sides, there's two stories, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. And you love both of your parents. And so that's why I tell my son, I know that perspective. I've been there. I know how hard that is. And then when you add the layer of when they get remarried. So when my dad got remarried and my mom got remarried, you add that, oh, now we have a stepdad and a stepmom, and then you have their kids and, and the whole big modern family. And see, I know what that's all like. And then the little things like my dad's wife had a daughter who didn't have a father. So it was very quickly that she started to call my dad. Oof. And that hurt at first. Now I love her. She's a great part of the family. But at the time, that was kind of like, oof, that really hurt me. Like, she's calling my dad, but she didn't have a dad, and my dad is great, so, so yeah, so there's that perspective. So I understand that layer. And then, so for my son, I've never asked him this question. I don't think that his step siblings call my ex dad. I don't think so. I think he would have a problem with that if they did, because it seems so simple. You know what I mean? It's just a word, dad, mom. But when you go there and somebody tries to take on that role, and they do know that, like, his new spouse, I don't think she tries to be mom. And I don't think, because my kids, that's one thing for myself personally. I, as an adult, never called my mom's new husband my stepdad. It was my mother's husband. And he's a great guy. I liked him. He's just not my dad, He jokes now and calls himself, oh, your favorite stepdad, and I'm like, okay, funny,
Mm-hmm.
But it's that layer of the extended family, and the fact that JWs marry so quickly. So from my divorce, the day we finalized the divorce, he was remarried within 6 months. Like, not dating, married. So I joke about it.
What? That shit doesn't happen, Cheryl. Come on.
No, it's crazy, And so I said his tax, when the IRS doesn't, like the IRS, he went from married and the following year to married. Like, there was never a tax year of, we're, you know what I mean? I joke about that. I was like,
so here's one piece that I am going to share from, like, my person, because we're just, like, we've been laughing about it for about a month and a half, 2 months, whatever. So I had a hearing about a month or so ago with my soon-to-be ex. Just a pretrial hearing. But when it was done, she actually asked the judge, she's like, yeah, I was talking with a friend and they had said that there's a way that we can have, like, this, like, finalized, and, like, the marriage could be, like, done and over now. And we can figure out, like, all the particulars, like the finances and the custody and all that, later on. And the judge is like, well, yeah, technically, yes, that's a thing I can do. But is there a reason? Like, you would have to show me a good reason why you need your divorce to be finalized right now. And she's like, no. So we've been sitting here guessing, like, who is it?
Yep.
Well, now we know. We know who.
Now have a fair.
We have a pretty good idea now of who it actually is. But
yeah, like you said, they don't waste any time. It's
my ex-husband. We went before the judge August 31st. 2015. He was remarried January 2016.
And I said that to him, like, when we were finishing up the marriage and all that. I said, you'll be remarried in less than, no, I won't. And I said, and they were lining up. There was about 5 sisters that got in line, and they were my friends, and they just wanted to make sure they got in line. It was kind of comical because I was like, happy wives don't just up and leave wonderful guys. There's a reason why.
But you're evil.
I was evil, yes. I know. I went crazy. I'm crazy. I'm a sociopath.
We're mentally diseased.
I'm mentally diseased. Yeah. I have all the names, and I'm just okay. Or I was just leaving, an abusive, not physical abuse, but leaving a marriage where I wasn't happy, and there's no way out. And in that religion, you cannot leave a marriage without being disfellowshipped, without, somebody's going to take the consequences. And now in hindsight, I mean, I do respect the years we were married and, that we have children and all that. But unfortunately, we grew apart and it didn't work out. And, I never thought that I'd be divorced and have to co-parent and do all that. But here we are. And now I've learned so much about all of it. And I'm sorry, you guys have to go through it too.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to, like you said, it's great that there is a support network there. And that's one of the things that, again, like she mentioned, and I'll reiterate, like I'm super grateful for the group that, in New York that I was able to find that support and reconnect with Amanda and find other XJWs online and find an entire community. That's one thing that a fellow who's in a support group that we had started for XJWs in Minnesota had mentioned. He's like, when you start leaving, like, you don't realize that there is a big community of people. You think that there's 25 apostates sitting in their basements just talking shit and like that's it. But there really is thousands and tens of thousands of people that have the same damn experience. Like the same thing has happened to them. Obviously, there's nuance to every situation, but there is
people that can relate.
Yes, there is no shortage of people that can empathize and relate to your situation.
That's right. And I'm happy that both of my girls, they really don't even identify as XJWs. Like, I'm very happy for that because they left. They've gone to therapy, they've gotten closure, and they've really beautifully moved on with their lives. And one thing I did right is I will tell you that my middle daughter said to me that she's glad that I was, how does she say it? That she was able to figure it out on her own, that I didn't pressure her. And now we're so close. And they do miss their dad. I want to say for the record that they do long for a relationship with him. And I know my oldest daughter said, as angry as she is about the shunning and this and that and how he doesn't accept her, if he called her and said, look, I'm sorry, do you want to go out and catch a burger and whatever? She'd be like, all right, why not? And they do want a relationship with him, but it's just not going to happen. Like, I don't ever see him waking up. If he does, I would be so happy for him. I really would. But if he's truly 100% happy in the religion, like we said, and he wants, then that's what he needs to do. And I wish him the best. And I hope happiness to him and his wife, and I just couldn't do it anymore. But the threat of losing your children is terrible. And I do regret, if I could go back and not raise my kids in this religion, I wish I left sooner. But you can't go back and do it again. And I guess I'm just happy I woke up now and that I can continue my life, because these have been the happiest years of my life since the day I left. I now celebrate my shuniversary, as I call it. When you're first disfellowshipped, you're like devastated and crying, and you're losing everything. And now I look back and I'm like, that was the greatest day of my entire life. And, mine is in October. So I write it on my calendar, my shuniversary, and I'm like, how many years? And you're taught growing up, if you ever leave, it's going to be so bad. And then you believe it. And then you leave and you're like, what in the world was I thinking? I should have left a long time ago.
Yeah, you're going to be alone.
So my girls don't really identify as XJWs. They're living a great life. And both of my girls, my oldest daughter has a trade. She has a career doing hair. She's very, very happy. And my middle daughter is just finishing up at 20 years old, her bachelor's degree in nutrition. So she's doing it all on her own. This was her thing. And, to get that opportunity to go to college, not that college is the be all end all. I mean, trades are great, like my oldest daughter or whatever, but they had that opportunity to choose and do what they want with their life. And my son, the same thing. He has certain goals of things he wants to do, whether it's a trade or college. I told him he'll figure it out, but it isn't door knocking anymore. So
I think I actually follow your oldest daughter's hair page on Instagram, actually. So incredibly talented.
Well, if I can give
impressive.
a shameless plug to her, she's Vividly Live, Vividly Live on IG. If you want to follow it and you ever need rainbow hair.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying this because she's my daughter, but she's incredibly talented when it comes to that. And
I was actually going to ask you, we'll put it in the description. We'll give her.
There you go.
Give her a link.
It is. She's very, very talented. I'm very, very proud of both of them, all three of them, and I just hope happiness for them too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It seems we're covering a lot of the questions, which is great. I have anything you're grateful for because of your circumstance or upbringing. It seems you've touched on it some. Is there anything additionally that you're grateful for?
I spent my entire childhood praying for my father to become a witness. Now I can say I'm incredibly grateful that he never did. And I'm incredibly grateful for my 2-year college degree, which I got right away out of school, which thankfully I had an unbelieving father that I was allowed to go. And then later I went back and finished my bachelor's and my master's. And I'm really grateful for the education because I can support myself comfortably now and take care of my kids where, I struggled for so many years as the stay-at-home mom thing, all that. And as far as growing up a witness, I guess I'm an extrovert and I'm already a social. I've never been shy, I'll say. But your JW upbringing with the training and public speaking, I am actually grateful for that. I really feel like having that training from such a young age, from infancy, as they say, I do cherish that training I got in public speaking. And I think it helps me now. I work as a college professor teaching, and I feel like I use a lot of my skills that I learned growing up. So that I'm really grateful for. I'm grateful for my family and, my friends. And like I said, I know it is, we started the group, but our XJW community, it has been priceless. And now I feel like I'm paying it forward, that I look forward to the next person who joined, because I am one of the moderators of the group that we, when somebody wants to join the group, I get so excited about who's going to be next, who's leaving and who are we going to help. And it's an exciting journey for me now because I'm fully out. I don't want to say I'm cured, but I'm very healed from the religion. I'm over all of it. I'm not triggered by it anymore. I used to run away in a grocery store when I saw a witness. Now I walk random by and I'm like, yeah, hello, how you doing? I'm fine with all of it. I'm good. But the next, I love the journey of watching a person who anonymous name joins our group and they don't want to tell me their real name. That's totally fine. I've been there, understand that, to secretly listening and watching. And then they join our call and then they start talking. And then a month or two goes by and all of a sudden they got their real name and they're living life and they're happy. And I absolutely love helping other people now with that journey that I've been there. I know what it's like to leave a high control group, lose your friends, lose your family, lose your spouse, go through court and child custody and child support and all that stuff. I know what that's like. I know the feeling, and that's what our support. And one thing I'll mention too is we are not a substitute for, we are not trained therapists. So we are not a substitute for therapy. We tell everybody to find yourself a really good therapist. This is strictly a support group. So the support group really does help people. And in just a few months, we've seen people transition right into their life and they're good to go. So so I'm very, very grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's kind of like you talk about that. And we talked about some of the way the group has grown when we first started. We talked about there's been ones from the Minnesota area that have joined. And so we've seen that there. We've had ones from the Minnesota area that joined that don't want to share their names. They're not going to go on camera. And now all of a sudden they're talking. And, for a long time I was there, but just kind of listening, and then a little bit on video, like while I was driving home. And then
Now we remember.
And we talked about our friend in New Zealand. Same thing. She came in with a fake name for like the first however long, not turning on her camera. And then all of a sudden, and then we see people kind of grow into their own, authentic identity, whether, whatever it is, to whatever level of engagement they have within the XJW community or activism or whatever. Like, it's a really beautiful thing to see each person's individual, I guess, growth in that area. So thank you for facilitating that for many.
It helps me to help all of you. But the one thing we're very respectful of too is some people leave the Jehovah's Witness religion and they are still religious and they may find comfort in going to church and that's their thing. And we have other people that become very atheist and they're very happy with that. But we also are a group that no matter where you are on the spectrum of religion, whatever makes you happy, we try to be respectful of everyone. So we're not a bunch of angry apostates who sit around and gripe about God. I'm like, no, that's not what it is. It's about finding your happiness. And that's the one thing I can say is I tell my kids that, I've been out now like 3 years. It's been the best 3 years of my entire life. Even though I lost all my friends and part of my family and my spouse and everything, I'm still my authentic self now. I don't have to hide who I am and I don't have to worry about Armageddon coming. And I'm fully past all of that. And I guess you cherish the good memories and you move on now to the better ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we have a pretty diverse group and geographically, like racially, social backgrounds, religious backgrounds. We have ones that are atheists. We have ones that are still Christian. We have like kind of the full gamut of individuals there. So it's all about being able to be supportive. So, yeah.
And I'm really hoping we can have an in-person group. We're going to have to fly you guys out or, you know what I mean? We all got to get together in person one of these days.
Right. Yeah. No, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. I was trying to see if we covered all my questions. Looks like we also touched on this too, but do you have any advice for parents that are trying to co-parent in this kind of situation, or any advice to children that are living in this situation, or for any of those that are trying to leave? I know it's kind of a compound subject there, but
so the first one was parents in this situation.
Yeah. So any ones that are trying to co-parent.
Yeah. You basically to co-parent, it takes maturity that you have to realize it's not about you. It's about the child and doing what's best for the child, as difficult as that can be. Letting the child make their own choices. It comes down to a lot of whether you want to be in the religion or not, but just letting your child know that you love them no matter what. And that just because it didn't work out between me and your dad or whatever, doesn't mean we don't love you. It's not your fault. There's nothing you could have done. And then from the perspective of a child who, or I think you were asking like a physically and mentally out child that wants to leave. If you have this type of situation where, maybe the child wants to side with one parent or the other, the biggest advice I can give is get your driver's license, finish high school, and if you can get a trade or if you can go to a community college, get that education, get that in, because without that, you're not going to be able to support yourself. And not that money is the most important thing it isn't. It does not buy happiness, but you need to be able to support yourself. So, I said that to all of my kids, that driver's license and getting some sort of trade, no matter what it is, that is your key to taking care of yourself out of this. Because, as in the religion, higher education isn't allowed and, all forbidden. So it doesn't have to be a college degree. Trades today are great. So sign up for those and then get yourself out on your own.
Have yourself lined up in some way.
Yes.
I guess it kind of goes along with any advice for those that are trying to leave, I guess, from the child perspective or minor perspective, kind of get yourself set up so you can take care of yourself.
Right.
But what if you're stay-at-home mom? What if you are a husband that's trying to get out? Like if you're an adult in a marriage trying to get out and leave that marriage and the religion, do you have any advice?
Yeah, I think it'd be the same. I think it's a different for if you're a stay-at-home mom with no education, no job, you really got to set yourself up. There are programs out there that can help you with that kind of thing. But again, setting yourself up with a trade or something so you can take care of yourself. As far as the father trying to leave, that can be just as difficult because the mother has so many rights when it comes to the kids that the father has to make sure he has a relationship to continue with the kids, because he's most likely going to end up paying child support and all that if he leaves. And, it can be very, very complicated. But I was going to say something else about the child leaving. Oh, I was going to say, like right now, my son, I don't really know whether or not my son wants to be I don't really ask him about the religion, so to speak. But I do tell him that when you are a minor and right now, you do have to sit respectfully and listen to the meeting because that's your dad and you live there with him and you can sit respectfully and you can listen. And but if when you turn 18, if you don't want to anymore, you don't have to. But if you want to continue, you should. But I tell him he has to be respectful because it is his dad's house and it is his wife and that's what they believe. And no matter what religion it was, I would tell him to be respectful. But just to know that he can eventually make his own choice. It doesn't have to be in it, or it can be. I mean, so I know at 16 for him, it probably seems like an eternity till he's going to turn 18, but it's like a year and a half. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that far, but you know how it is when you're that age. It's a long ways off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So to be respectful, be patient. And again, I encourage him, to get a trade, go to college if he wants. He's talking about getting his CDL license or something. I think that's fantastic. If that's what he wants to do, great. Let's do it. Let's sign you up, whatever you need to do. But I also tell him too, he's welcome to live here at home as long as he can. And just giving him choices. Because as a JW, your life is planned out for you. There are no choices. There's black and white thinking, good, evil, that's what it is. Right, wrong. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Become a pioneer. That's your career. I never understood that.
Mm-hmm.
Your career. Okay.
And hopefully that's something that he recognizes as well. Like as things go, that he doesn't have those choices if he chooses one path, whereas you're going to let him choose whatever the hell he wants. So yeah.
Of course, I have biases of what I hope he chooses, but I really try hard to not say what I want because I ask him what he thinks. Just like I did, and it worked for my other two, and they couldn't be happier. They're doing great. So, I mean, parenting. You wish. Well, I mean, what works for one kid doesn't work for the next one, and you wish they came with a manual and it's the toughest job in the world, and, you guys know it's a lot of work, but I try to be the best mom I can be to them and be supportive. And I'm not perfect. I have regrets. There's things I wish I could change when they were young, but I gave it my best shot. I did my best. That's all you can do
that way. Yeah. I guess to kind of wrap it up what has helped you the most to heal and have a good life, and what resources can you recommend?
Oh, that's a good question. First of all, in the beginning, my own personal research. Just researching everything and anything. I went through that whole stage where you become, like I said, I become obsessed with everything I could possibly learn and read. Every book, I've read them all. I've done them all. Then after that, you have to heal. And that I would have to say the XJW community, just reaching out and that support from other XJWs, other high control groups, other people who are divorced, definitely finding a great therapist. I actually worked with a XJW therapist who helped me get through a lot of things. It was just priceless to me.
I think we had the same therapist, actually.
Really? Oh, if it was
Dr. Lee
from Britain.
Nope, never mind.
No, it was a different one. Yeah. No, she's actually from the UK. She's wonderful. Getting through that process and just getting that support from everyone. And when I left, I did reach out to other ex-JW friends who had left years before me. And the grovel of, I'm sorry I shunned you, and they welcome me with open up. But you have to find that support. And if you're planning to leave, you can try to get that support before you leave too, with people you work with, and tell your story. Because I used to be, here I am, look at me doing this interview. When I first left, I was so embarrassed. I didn't want to tell anyone. Oh my goodness. I didn't want to identify. I used to be a Jehovah's Witness. You're like, I'm so embarrassed. How did I ever? And my therapist helped me realize that I didn't choose this. I was raised in it. I was 7 years old. I believed what my parents told me. They told me the Armageddon was coming. I was never going to get married in this system of things. I was never going to have kids. I was going to never get old. And I'm going to be riding a panda by the time I'm 20. Everybody goes back to the panda. And then it just didn't happen. And then as you get older and older, I was embarrassed that I ever believed that. Now I'm embarrassed that I didn't leave sooner. Like, what was wrong with me? I'm a college educated person. And how did I not wake up sooner? So you go through all those feelings. And then you realize that, everybody has a journey, and that now I can just help other people. But reaching out, having that support, and now I do feel fully healed and on the other side of it, and I can help. And here I am using my real name, telling my story. But I'm not crazy about going public with my story. But I feel like if it can help even one person out there, then it's worth telling my story, that you're not the only one. There's so many of us that were raised the same way, and it's, a camaraderie, I guess, with all of us. We all have that in common. Like we said, we've never met in person, and we've been great friends for years. It's amazing. The brotherhood that's available outside of
gross
that religion. Yeah.
Fuck would you use that word for? That's gross, Cheryl. Knock it off.
I use it in quotes.
She did air quotes.
I'm kidding. I know.
Sorry.
No, it is. It's beautiful. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and helping others. And like with you yourself, Tyler, going to school. And I'm so proud of you and what you're doing and becoming a therapist. There's such a need for that. That like when I left, I didn't have my XJW, our group, to reach out to people. I reached out to Karina personally, and she was fantastic. I reached out, but we didn't have that. And I didn't even know who to go to for. How do you go to a therapist and explain what it is? You tell people, well, and they're like, so you have to train your therapist to help you. Like you're offering a fantastic service for people. There's such a need for it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Kudos for you to offer that. I think I'm proud of you. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Good job, Tyler.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
amazing parents too. So
what's
one
that?
more time?
I didn't hear you.
You guys are amazing parents too, to fight for your children and do what you're doing. It's all worth it.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you giving us your input and your time today and your experience, and every little bit helps as we continue on with this. But
is there anything that you're like, as we're wrapping up, you're like, God, I got to say that, I got to get this out. Anything that you closing words of wisdom or encouragement or?
I think I've said it all. I doubt my ex will ever watch this, but if they do, I think we all have the same goal of wanting what's best for our children, whether you're in the religion or not. We all have the same goal of letting them be happy. I think that's what all parents want, really. We try our best, and I think that's basically it.
Yeah.
okay.
Well said.
Yeah.
So,
I can't think of anything more.
Yeah.
Good luck to everybody who's in this situation. Reach out to me, give me a call, send me a message. I'd be happy to give you the support and love you need. And
awesome.
We've all been there and done that. So
yep,
we're in this together.
True.
Very much so.
All right. Well,
That's it. Well, thank you so much again for being willing to come on, share your story with us. Thank you to, kudos to you and your children for, kind of the experience that you guys have had, and you and them collectively and individually, the kind of your waking up experiences and all that. So, very wonderful to hear you share that with us. We appreciate it so much.
Yep. Thanks so much. You guys are awesome.
You too.
Well, that is it. Cheryl, cheers to you.
Cheers. With your water bottle.
Yeah. With my water. Sorry.
Great.
That's all we got. Thank you to everyone for listening. We'll see you guys soon.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.